Well, thank you, sir, and I really appreciate you helping set expectations so low, so that I can clear the bar. Uh, and now, of course, I have just switched my camera, so bear with me while I wrestle with my own technology.
You're
That's
just
a
trying to show me up that you have a much better shave, a barber than I do. I get it. All right.
This is as long as I can get it to go, man. Uh, Thank you all. I really appreciate having the chance to chat with folks today and to dive into some of these issues. And that Slido poll was really helpful. That's fabulous context setting. And I got to say, you're all in good company. So that's terrific. I'm also pleased that Critchfield was here last time. James and I spent 8 years sitting 4.5 feet apart from each other and working together, and we still take bike trips together. So glad he was here. He's a smart guy doing really interesting work there still at the agency. So let's jump in here. Next slide, please, Jesse. Let me introduce the RTC and our work on RNG. The RTC exists. We're a membership organization, right? So here's our logo brag slide. I think you'll see some of you will find yourselves here on the slide. I think you'll also find some of your partners out in the market. And here's why we exist, right? I started doing renewable electricity work at EPA in 2004 and did that for 14 years, both at EPA and then at Altenex. And what a remarkable story and arc that's been. Combination of really good policy success on the state RPSs, the federal PTC and ITC, is some innovation work on the utility side, and frankly, massive leadership demonstrated by the private sector. Right, the companies went and created and drove a voluntary market and innovated into being a voluntary renewable electricity market that has been largely transformative. And as Tom noted, Scope 1 is next, and it was a conversation 4.5 years ago between some of those companies that had been, in fact, early leaders in the electricity market that led to the RTC. We got in a room at a conference and said, "So, this renewable electricity work has been amazing, right? Everyone's, we've all got PPAs where everyone's feeling pretty good about their goals, right? Yes, okay, but we make stuff. We're a manufacturer. We're using a lot of natural gas. We need heat to run our businesses. Anybody else have that problem? Yes, everybody had that problem. Anybody know what to do about it to decarbonize? And no one knew, right? Because it's next. And so the RTC was born of companies recognizing that thermal decarbonization is the next frontier here on greenhouse gas emissions reductions and climate and net zero and SBTI. Thermal is what's next. It's the great pending challenge. And so we've organized the RTC, again, around the company, the buyers and the needs of the buyers to execute and implement a transition, a fundamental transition, right? And to figure out what the solution sets are, what the deployment models are, who their partners need to be, how to do the right policy, and how to make this all happen. So this is a really interesting group of companies here, right? They are mostly multinationals. We have 3 U.S. localities here, the cities of Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. Right, they're thinking about thermal decarbonization from the perspective both of their own operations and as huge aggregations of residential buildings, businesses large and small, right? The operations of cities and communities, right? And how do we address that piece of the thermal footprint while retaining services, comfort, safety, right? We got to keep everybody warm. The state of Wisconsin is a member. The University of California system, right? They're always thinking about a complex buildings portfolio, and Kaiser Permanente is another sort of buildings focus. So there's a combination focus here on industrial requirements across the full heat spectrum, low, medium, and high, and then buildings. And then on the sponsor side, what I would note here on the sponsor side, and this is going to start to lead us into RNG, is part of the challenge here is that thermal decarbonization is not a two technology solution, right? Wind and solar on the electricity side, we've gotten really good at scaling them, right? And an electron is an electron. You can send it whipping down a transmission line. Once you make an electron, they all do the same unit of work as any other electron, right? You can't send heat down a line. You can send fuel down a pipeline, but with all of the thermal decarbonizations, the renewable thermal decarbonization solutions, and we run through that set in just a second, there are some challenges, and there are some limitations, some site-specific or resource-specific considerations, such that it's a little more of a specific solution set, and sort of aligning specific solutions with specific applications exercise. So it's a little more complicated. There are more technologies that are going to wind up slotting into addressing this problem ultimately, and RNG is one of them, and it's very attractive for a couple of reasons. So let's jump to the next slide here, and I'll see if I can pick up the pace here. So just a quick look at our work here. The RTC is facilitated by a DGA, where I work, and then two NGOs, the World Wildlife Federation, World Wildlife Fund, and the Center for Climate and Energy Solutions. And we've basically blocked our work into four big chunks here. Right, there's markets work, because ultimately, right, to do this decarbonization, it's going to take a lot of projects, right? There's the sheer amount of physical change that's going to happen is staggering, right? Equipment's going to have to be replaced. New stuff is going to be manufactured and deployed. Process lines are going to be re-engineered. There's a lot of physical change that has to happen. We've got to have policy. We've got to have a community here, right? The companies are all in a pretty interesting position. All of our members have got goals, right? Whether they're net zero or carbon neutrality or both, or RE100 or both, or they've all got goals, and a bunch of them have goals coming due 2028, 2030, which is, for all intents and purposes, about 10 minutes from now. So they are all very interested in sharing lessons learned, and collaborating to scale solutions as quickly as possible. Today's conversation is mostly on the technology side, right? And this is really the set of technologies that we wind up talking about, plus biomass, when we start to dig into thermal decarbonization, right? Part of what's so interesting about RNG, and Tom will take us deeper into this, is that it's pipeline deliverable, right? And that's very attractive. Also, it's produced from methane that would otherwise be vented in the atmosphere. And as an ex-EPA guy, I need to note that methane vented into the atmosphere is a climate catastrophe, right? So capturing that and turning it into a useful resource is pretty compelling. Next slide, please. On RNG, here's what we've done so far. We have convened with the Downstream Natural Gas Initiative that was formerly at MJ Bradley, and MJ Bradley was acquired by ERM. That's a working consortium of utilities that's thinking about the future of the gas grid, right, and what the next generation solutions are. So we've been having an ongoing conversation with them from the supply side, bringing our members as large, creditworthy multinational customers looking for decarbonization solutions, and then some of the developers that we have as sponsors into a dialogue to say, okay, look, here's where we're all trying to go, right? The buyers are trying to get to decarbonization. Here are their pain points, right? Here are the problems they're encountering, and we saw some of those on the poll. Let's talk about how to address it. We've got all the stakeholders in the value chain here. Let's map these out, and let's figure out where the priorities are, and let's figure out where we collectively have the ability to dig in and start to address some of these barriers. In an early meeting, I had someone turn to me and say, "Oh, this is simple. All you need to do, Blaine, is raise the price of fossil gas, 10x, and the problem is solved." And that, I suppose that was true as far as it goes, but I don't have commodity pricing power at Henry Hub, right? That seemed a little outside the scope of what we would be able to do. So we're really looking for the places where we can collaborate with the right stakeholders and start to address these issues. So we are just on the verge of publishing our preliminary findings from that dialogue, right? Because we identified some pain points, and it's worth sort of sharing those and saying this is what we've found. Let's truth test this, right, with a broader audience. We are getting ready to expand that effort into a multi-year technology action plan and partnership, a TAP. We're in Greater DC, so we have to have acronyms. So we're gonna refresh this effort, invite additional stakeholders, take another look at the landscape of opportunities and priorities, and then really we have a new slug of resources here. And we're going to spend, the next year or two really digging in on these issues. That might involve policy work around RNG, right? Might involve utility tariff structures aimed at C&Is. Could involve greenhouse gas accounting rules. That's actually a big one around RNG. Could involve things like interconnection standards, right? And streamlining those. So. RNG is a pretty interesting solution. There are some challenges, but it's out there, and it's out there more and more. And I think that's probably a place where Tom is gonna take us and add some additional insight. So just a couple last slides here before I get out of the way. Come to the RTC website. Next slide, please, Jesse. We have lots of interesting downloadable resources on electrification. Very interesting topic, not without its challenges. Other technology approaches here, the policy landscape. All of these materials are available on the RTC site. And my last slide here is my contact information. Please don't hesitate. Come visit our website, follow us on Twitter, and actually our LinkedIn feed is pretty robust. So I invite you to connect with us there. And let me stop and get out of the way for Tom. We'll take it to the next level here.
All right, excellent, Blaine. That was fantastic, and hopefully all of you do see and recognize, there's a lot of really good work, and Blaine, his previous slide there on all of the publications that they put out, they really are top notch in many of those areas. And so I suspect if we don't dive into some of these things in future peer exchange calls, well, we will. I mean, we will dive into that. So at some point we might have Blaine actually come back for some of these things, but they have a wealth of resources. And as he mentioned, it is a really good organization, membership based. Several of you low carbon pilot participants participate with them, right? And so this is just an opportunity where Blaine, we really do appreciate having you come in here and give us a rundown. Now, with that, I want to pivot and I'm going to go from Tom to the better looking Tom. Our next speaker, Jesse, if you roll forward here, we have Element Markets and we have Tom Moffitt, who I've already introduced. But the much better Tom, please take it from here. Okay.
Again, thanks, Tom, for setting that bar nice and low. And Blaine, great job kicking this meeting off. Again, I'm Tom Moffitt. I run our renewable natural gas group out of our Carlsbad office. And Jesse, you can go to the next slide. And just happy to be with you. Just a real quick on who Element Markets is. We've been around since 2005, been really in the renewable natural gas space since 2008. We are majority owned by the RISE Fund, which is a platform managed by TPG with over 11 or $12 billion under management. But really here to focus on not all the other things, the amazing stuff that our company does with carbon offsets and ERCs and other environmental credits. We're really here to focus on the high level renewable natural gas, of which as an independent marketer, we represent close to over 20% of all the renewable natural gas projects in the US. So happy to share my knowledge with you and look forward to your questions. You can go on to the next slide. And really, what's really supported our industry, we've seen massive growth over the last decade, not just in the transportation space, but also over the last couple years, really in the sustainability spaces by corporations and pipelines and utilities stepping up and seeing the value of renewable natural gas in implementing their own mandates, but also corporate sustainability plans and going out there and procuring the renewable natural gas. So the demand for this product and interest, I would say, has never been at an all-time high. And here's just a couple sample set out there of just the companies out there that have been doing some amazing work in this space that we've been alongside and supporting through the different industry groups, as well as doing deals with to make sure that we can bring this product to meet the sustainability goals of the industry as we look to decarbonize the thermal side of the markets. You can go to the next slide. So really, from a high level, what is renewable natural gas? And it's really just methane gas captured, obviously, from landfills, wastewater treatment plants, anaerobic digesters, food digesters. It's basically all the organic material that would either be flared or vented into the atmosphere that is then captured, cleaned up, and injected into a natural gas pipeline, where it's almost indistinguishable from fossil natural gas, but carries along all the environmental benefits that goes alongside with renewable natural gas that we'll get into in here in a little bit. But when you hear renewable natural gas, 1 MMBTU or decatherms equals 1 MMBTU of fossil natural gas from that equivalence from a measuring standpoint. So they're measured in the same amount of terms from that perspective. You can go to the next slide. And really, there are so much more benefits to RNG, and just wanted to go through, not only are you talking about removing greenhouse gases at the site of emissions, but you also have improved water quality, air quality. It promotes, energy decarbonization. And also, we're seeing from a lot of the waste companies out there improved waste management plans on how they handle their waste and process their waste from that. So really is a full cycle of benefits of renewable natural gas. And I don't need to tell you, here in the US, for the foreseeable future, we are going to have waste issues and waste solutions that we're going to have to bring to the market, and renewable natural gas is at the pinnacle of that as we continue to create waste in the US and how to manage that in a more effective way. You can go to the next slide. And this is just an example of one of the entities that we were successful in working at that has really taken a big stake in this market is Northwest Natural, and we're happy to work with them to deliver the benefits of renewable natural gas to their companies, and just really put this slide in here to show that not only is this a concept that we're talking about, but this has been being done for quite a little bit of time now from proven technologies and proven successful programs out there to bring this product to decarbonize their thermal and fossil natural gas needs across the US. You go to the next slide. And really what I also was brought here to talk about is really where renewable natural gas sits is for those scope 1 emissions. And 1 MMBTU of renewable natural gas counts for 1 fossil MMBTU of scope 1 emissions that you're using at your site. And so that's where renewable natural gas really finds a nice spot in scope 1 emissions, is that's either through renewable thermal certificates or physical delivery of renewable natural gas. But as we've seen, the industry has done a really good job of eliminating their emissions from their electricity side with wind and solar. But now looking at the thermal sides from the emissions, renewable natural gas is one of the leading solutions for those issues. And like Blaine said, one of the advantages of renewable natural gas is it's also storable. So you're able to store it, use it when you need it, and manage your load because of the existing pipeline infrastructure that we already have built in the U.S., but also the fact that it is completely storable, so you can use it as your load shifts around throughout the year. You can go to the next slide. And again, to just dive more, if Scope 1 is really the first time hearing about Scope 1 mitigations, it really is the direct emissions from your owned and controlled sources. And that renewable natural gas does fall into the category of Scope 1. What's also interesting to point out about renewable natural gas is there's no physical delivery requirements required, which means if you're already under a natural gas purchasing plan, in order to procure renewable natural gas, you can do a displacement or purchase just the environmental attributes to add on to your natural gas purchasing plan. So there's what we call the book and claim accounting method, which means you don't need to disrupt your operations. You're not taking any kind of different type of natural gas into your facilities. You are literally attaching the environmental attributes from our RNG project to meet your Scope 1 needs. So from an operations standpoint, it doesn't change or doesn't need to change anything that you're doing from those kind of standards. You would be accepting from the pipeline or however you receive your natural gas today. It would be a contractual book and claim accounting approach where then you can go and claim your Scope 1 emission reductions from that side. So that's a big advocate for renewable natural gas, is the ease on the operations side of it from there. And there are sites and entities out there such as MRETS, which has developed a renewable thermal certificate, or RTC, which allows you to have visibility and audible tracking rights and retirement. So you know that you can adequately retire it, or you can do it through attestations or a number of other ways per your sustainability requirements to make sure that you have the visibility you need to retire that credit or take claim to that that is needed for your goals. You can go to the next slide. Really, and then what I'm going to take in this is the cost. Not going to go out there. The cost is not cheap. It is an expensive product, and this is one of the biggest challenges for sustainable buyers is the cost. And really, that's because over 95% of the renewable natural gas today is going into the U.S. transportation market underneath the EPA Renewable Fuel Standard and also the California Low Carbon Fuel Standard, which, if you're talking about renewable natural gas, it could be valued anywhere between $100 per MMBTU and down to $40 per MMBTU. And I realize when you're looking at NYMEX, as opposed to this winter, we've been getting used to prices in the $2 to $3 per MMBTU. So that's where you're really talking about cost and how do you build into your budgets and to be able to procure this product in a budget attainable way and really try to direct these molecules not only just into the transportation market, but also into sustainability markets when you're competing against some of those prices from that side. The other side of challenges that we see from buyers in the space is volume, making sure there's enough volume from the demand that can justify projects for their financing, for their development, as well as their timing of it. How long does it take? It can take anywhere from 12 months to 2 years to bring on a new renewable natural gas project, as well as delivery risk around that project. We are talking about, decomposing organic matter, and you will have different supply curves throughout the year of how the volume is flowing. And so that's also something else to consider when looking at renewable natural gas. But there are portfolio approaches to help mitigate the volume variability and risk from that side. As well as, we'll get into this in a bit, is not all renewable natural gas is created equal, as you'll see in my next couple slides, in the sense of the value is very different in different programs that you are under, and really trying to find the right renewable natural gas offtake that you're looking for that meets your needs, so you're not buying something that or overpaying for something that has a value in a different market to see where it goes from there. You can go to the next slide. So here is a typical landfill gas project over the last couple years going into the transportation market. One thing you'll notice, other than the higher price of where we currently are right now of already over $40 per MMBTU, you will notice some volatility in those markets. So you have the RIN credit, you also have the low carbon fuel standard credit, and the commodity value of the gas that is all going associated with this. So although the transportation space has produced a lot of value for the renewable natural gas project, it is a volatile market. So that's where the sustainability buyers, if you're looking to purchase on a longer term basis, can add some stability to the market. And that's where the longer term sustainability buyers has found success, is looking for those long term kind of PPA type contracts that provide more stability to the price as you compete with the higher value transportation market. But this is from a landfill pricing mechanism in the transportation space. And if we can go to the next slide, I'll shock you even more with pricing here of over north of $100 per MMBTU of a swine renewable natural gas project. And this is because the swine renewable natural gas projects get a different classification under the California LCFS GREET model, which is really a wells to wheel carbon intensity score. And because of that, it has a significantly increased LCFS value. So as I was saying before, if you're looking to buy it to meet your scope 1 needs, swine renewable natural gas is probably not the right avenue to go down to, and something more like landfill or wastewater treatment plants will probably be the best projects to look at from that perspective, just given the value differences. But I did want to throw out there just the value that you see in the transportation markets and what the sustainability markets are going to need to kind of come through to try to incentivize new development in the space, but also incentivize those molecules to flow in different directions as well. You can go to the next slide. And then this is incentivizing and methane emission reductions. And this is where I was talking about not all renewable natural gas is created equal. So are you looking to procure from landfill, food waste, dairy, or swine? Different types have different carbon intensity scores. When I said in the beginning, when we're talking about scope 1 MMBTU of renewable natural gas equals 1 MMBTU of fossil natural gas. So from that perspective, under your sustainability programs, looking from scope 1, you're regulatory indifferent on what the carbon intensity score is. But this is just to show you from other programs that are out there, mainly the low carbon fuel standard, how that GREET model scores it differently depending on what your carbon intensity is and really what drives that value in that space. You can go to the next slide. And this will be my last slide. What I also wanted to just close with today on this as well is you also have the ability, and we have a product here at Element called Renew, where you can combine not just renewable natural gas, but carbon offsets into a single product. And then that could also help with the budget. So if you're out there looking to try to offset some of your emissions with offsets and renewable natural gas, it could make sense to combine them together and offer kind of a turnkey approach that also brings carbon offsets and renewable natural gas under one product, so that you can also meet your goals, and that might increase the probability and budgets for your renewable natural gas projects. From that standpoint, that ends, and the last slide is just my thank you slide from there with my contact information. Again, I'm really happy to be here. I wanted to save some time for questions, but been dealing with this product for over a decade. I think it solves a lot of the issues, but also wanted to get out there just the pricing that we see in transportation markets. But we have plenty of solutions to look under long-term and sustainability needs, and happy to answer any questions that come up.